Fred, Donald Trump, as I said, has been very active on social media. Let me just read you a quick tweet that he has written. Now, he's written several of them, but let me just read this one very quickly. It says, "Red State, I miss you all, and thanks for all of your support. Political correctness is killing our country. Weakness." So again, another day where Donald Trump is dominating the headlines for the Republican presidential nomination. Fred?
Okay, and now the RNC is also asking that more needs to be said. But what is this relationship between the RNC and Donald Trump?
Well, they're caught really in a rock and a hard place. In many ways, comments like this from Donald Trump are not helpful to the Republican Party and the Republican brand. The RNC really can't do much. I mean, they can't tell Donald Trump that he can't be part of the Republican presidential race. I mean, they're just an organization. It really is going to be really down to the voters, and we'll see in public polling over the next week whether this has really hurt Donald Trump. I can't imagine that is certainly going to help him. You're probably going to see him slip in the polls, but at this point, the RNC, all they can ask, Fred, is for an apology. The big concern amongst Republicans, though, is that if Donald Trump leaves the Republican Party, launches a third-party bid, siphons off enough votes, allows the next president to be a Democrat, perhaps Hillary Clinton.
Interesting. All right, Mark, stay with us. I want to bring in two more people into this conversation. Jason Johnson, a political science professor at Hiram College, and CNN political commentator Ana Navarro, also here in Atlanta. All right, good to see all of you now. Boy, the hits just keep coming. It gets more and more interesting. All right, so Anna, you first. You know, the Trump camp has actually now released yet another statement. You've got all these tweets coming from Donald Trump himself. Now you've got the camp saying Mr. Trump made Megyn Kelly look really bad. She was a mess with her anger and totally caught off guard. Mr. Trump said, quote, blood was coming out of her eyes and whatever, end quote, meaning knows, but wanted to move on to more important topics. Only a deviant would think anything else. So now we've got the camp saying, you know, here's some clarity and I don't know, a bit of a jab for those who have interpreted his comments. So does this help or does this kind of make it worse?
Okay, at this point, I'm not even sure how to answer this because it feels like you are trapped inside a telenovela called As the Trump World Turns. And it gets weirder and weirder and more surreal by the minute. He got asked tough questions. So did everybody else on that stage. When you run for president, your life is an open book. He doesn't have a record in politics.
But Donald Trump,
he's got a record
these
in
weren't
business.
tough questions and said instead he says the moderator came out swinging and attacked him. That's his interpretation.
Because they asked him, for example, they confronted him about his 4 corporate bankruptcies. What he brings to the table supposedly is his business acumen. So I think it is a very fair question. He is at a Republican debate, running for the Republican nomination. It is very fair to ask him, will you pledge to not run as a third party? The questions that everybody else got asked, you know, they got asked tough questions. Casey got asked about expansion of Medicare. Jeb Bush got asked about Common Core immigration and his brother's war on Iraq. These guys were not out there doling out, you know, puffy questions. And Trump is the only one complaining because he's used to being the celebrity reality show star who does not get put under scrutiny.
So it's interesting here, Jason, because the inference here is he's being picked on.
Right.
And then he has said, even before the debate, that whenever somebody throws punches, he has a counterpunch, and this is it.
He knows how to swing back. And I think we've got 2 different issues actually going on here. One, yes, lots of tough questions were asked, but I think he was held more accountable than other people. He was asked by Chris Wallace for follow-ups. There were more Trump-oriented questions at that debate than anybody else, and I thought that was unseemly. It's the debaters who are supposed to attack each other, not the moderator.
But now is it less about what happened at the debate and more now about the response, his comments to Don Lemon last night, and now the back and forth over whether there should be clarification or even an apology? Why should anyone think that Donald Trump is going to apologize?
I don't think he should.
I mean, listen, this is like,
and you don't think he should?
I don't think he should at all.
I think it's ridiculous to suggest that he apologized. This is a man who has said that he's never asked God for forgiveness, and I don't know what makes anybody think he'd ask Megyn Kelly for forgiveness. Look, this is one more stripe on this zebra. This is not an isolated event. He has said offensive things about so many people that we could spend the rest of the show talking about what he said about Mexicans, what he said about Rosie O'Donnell, what he has said about anybody that he doesn't like or that may attack him in some way.
And we have to say, so is Eric Erickson. He referred to Wendy Davis as abortion Barbie. You know, he got on Megyn Kelly and said
he
women
even
should...
said, Eric said, I've made some inappropriate comments, I've said it, and then, you know, he's acknowledged that.
And
exactly, he did acknowledge
oftentimes
it.
he's apologized. Look, Eric is a good friend of mine.
Right.
Eric is no porcelain rose.
I was not going to suggest that.
He's a tough guy, and he plays hardball politics. But, you know, I think this is the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of people.
Okay, so Mark, you're here too. I'm sorry, you're out there, but you're here in Atlanta. I want to, you know, bring you back into the conversation. You made, you know, you talked about, well, the political debates are one thing. The RNC backing the political debates are one thing. He can't be disinvited to that Donald Trump. He can because this is an independent, you know, kind of forum, you know, 4-day, 3-day event. But is Eric Erickson, you know, commenting, being more forthright about Donald Trump, his behavior, his words, than even the RNC, Reince Priebus, being very delicate about how to handle Donald Trump? Is that a problem? Does this now underscore that there is a problem in which how the RNC should either rein him in, if they can, how they handle him?
Well, a couple things. One, Eric Erickson and the RNC have two totally separate jobs. And by the way, they don't even like each other. I mean, they're not politically aligned. They're politically aligned in the fact that the Republicans, and Anna's probably laughing, but they're politically aligned because they're Republicans. But Eric certainly represents a more conservative side than the RNC. Look, there's legal reasons right now that the RNC can't disinvite him to a debate. I mean, the bottom line is if you qualify for a debate and there's eligibility criteria that has been created, then the person gets invited to the debate. We have seen the RNC ask for an apology. I'm not really quite sure how much more they can do. It really does rest with the voters right now, with the folks that are attending this RedState Gathering right behind me, and quite frankly, his rivals for the Republican presidential nomination. That's what it comes down to. It'll be interesting to see what Scott Walker has to say, what Ted Cruz has to say, what Jeb Bush has to say in the next few hours. We've already seen some of the candidates come out and chastise
yeah, because they're all on the
Trump
lineup later on today.
Right. But let's not forget this about Donald Trump. And even folks who I talked to that were happy that Donald Trump was disinvited, they did make this point, and it is true, is that Donald Trump is talking about issues, enforcing issues into the lexicon right now that conservatives want to hear about, even though they're not happy with the Megyn Kelly comment. So Donald Trump has his supporters. Let's not forget that. Will he drop in the polls? Very likely, but who knows how far that drop's going to be.
Okay.
You never know. With
I was going to say, and do we really think very likely drop in the polls? It's hard to tell, isn't it?
Well, even a few percentage points is a lot, certainly when with a race of 17 people and everyone's scratching for every vote that they could get. So if you lose, you know, 4 or 5 points, I mean, that's significant this early on.
All right. So, Mark, Anna, Jason, we're not done. We've got more time to talk about this. We're going to take a short break and continue this conversation in a moment. And you will hear what Trump told CNN about a possible run for the White House as an independent candidate. Yes, I said the word. All right.